Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we are once again playing a bit more POX, thanks to a request from a donor. So, last time we played a build that had quite a few green cards, and I decided that we didn't really want the green cards aside from the Life From The Loam. So, that's what we're doing here. We are playing a mono-black deck, just splashing for this Life From The Loam, because this gets back our Mishra's Factories, our Ghost Quarter, our Cabal Pit, and most importantly, our Wasteland. Obviously, we can also get the Nurturing Peatland back too, and give ourselves a little draw engine. So I do like the Life From The Loam here quite a bit. So the way we're winning the game is attacking with Bloodghast, attacking with Nether Spirit, that's it. And in order to make this work, we are going to be doing things like smallpoxing and poxing our opponent to just strip away all their resources. We've also got some him to Tourachs. It should probably be 4 him to Tourachs and 3 Poxes, but you came here to see POX, so we're going to run 4 good old-fashioned POX. We have Liliana, which you can play on turn 1 thanks to the Dark Ritual, so we can just start removing all the life from a game until we're just left with dregs, and that's exactly where we like to operate. We have some Thoughtseize to punch a hole early doors, and that's pretty much it. Sideboard-wise, there are some decks that can go underneath us, so we have Mindbreak Trap and Leyline in the Void to help against that. We have ourselves some more removal in Sheoldred's Edict and Toxic Deluge, so if our opponent goes wide, making them sack a creature isn't the most useful thing off of a Smallpox, whereas Toxic Deluge can sweep up a whole bunch of things. And we have some Null Rod, again, for some of these decks that can go underneath us. We don't have any artifacts of our own, so this isn't going to step on our own toes. So yeah, that's what we're playing today. I quite enjoy playing POX. It's a good fun experience where you get to strip away everything and play a very simplified game after everything gets ripped apart. Alright, please remember to like and subscribe, and let's get ready to roll around in the dirt with some opponents, with some wonderful POX action. For the best Eternal experience this summer, check out Eternal Mania in Hasselt, Belgium from August 8th to 10th. Aside from hosting the European Legacy Masters, they have a whole host of other tournaments from team trios to old school and pre-modern. I will be there playing Legacy and hanging out as a special guest. This will also be the first event that I'll be giving out my own special Marit Lage tokens, so why not come down to enjoy an awesome weekend ran by one of the best TOs in Europe. Alright, we are into round 1. We have Thoughtseize into a land, probably a Bloodghast, and then we can cast POX, or we can hold the Bloodghast as more cards to pitch. This seems perfectly reasonable for what we want to be doing today. So we're going to start off with the Swamp and then ping our opponent with the Thoughtseize. Let's see what our opponent is on. Alrighty then. So, how do I feel about this hand of our opponent's? I think I want to take the Spirit Guide. I know that leaves them with potentially these Pyrogoys. We're going to be reducing our opponent's ability to play this game. So I think we take the Spirit Guide here. We just don't want our opponent getting stuff set up before we can ruin their day. A basic mountain. So we can't wasteland this. That's why our opponents play that out rather than the smashing. A dark ritual, you say? Okay. This seems like something I would like to do. Let's cast a dark ritual. Cast a POX. Lose a third of your hand and the land that you have. So I'm going to get rid of this Bloodghast, and I think it's probably the Nurturing Peatland here. And then we can play a land for turn, get the Bloodghast back, and then we're cooking. So we got rid of an Ancient Tomb and a Pyrogoyf. Sacrifice 1/3 of my lands. That's my only land. And then I will play out this Bayou. We will get back our Bloodghast. And look at that. That's gaming right there. We're pretty close to having the Bloodghast being hasty when we get more copies of Bloodghast. I kept the Wasteland over the other actual mana source for our spells because I just want to make sure our opponent just can't play this game. Let's take out this Shadow Skull Smashing, or Shadow Skull the Hammer Part, or whatever the backside is called. And we're in. So we know that they can pitch the Fury, so we're going to sandbag this land until we need it, so then we can just bring our Bloodghast back. An Ancient Tomb. If they tap this for anything, then our Bloodghast will have haste. This can get us a Surveil land, so I will play this out. Would love to find a Life From The Loam. Right, our opponent's on 9. They're under pressure from their own Ancient Tomb. If they play a Pyrogoyf this turn, we could be in trouble. But if they do nothing, that's also fine. So let's go and get this Surveil land. I'll put 2 Surveil lands in the deck. I think that makes sense. Life From The Loam. Do I want to put this in the graveyard? Is it worth dredging? Yes, it is. because that way we can maybe dredge into another Bloodghast. Alright, this is exactly what we came here to do today. I would like to get back this Wasteland, this Ghost Quarter, this Nurturing Peatland, I suppose. Alright. Our opponent was very much in the dirt there. That was a classic Poxing. Oh wow, that made me feel great. So, what do we want to do about our opponent's deck? So cards that are playable in this matchup include Null Rods, Toxic Deluge, and Sheoldred's Edict. I don't particularly want to Toxic Deluge my opponent when they're on big monsters. So I'm going to get rid of those. How do I feel about the Thoughtseize on the draw? So if they go like turn 1 Chalice, they can really hammer us if we're trying to do Thoughtseize stuff. So there is an argument to swap some Thoughtseizes for some Sheoldred's Edict, because how are we going to lose this game? Our opponent makes a creature that we can't answer. So let's have a little bit more removal in here. Do I want a singleton Null Rod? This can shut off our opponent's Chrome Moxes and One Ring and a few other bits and pieces. I think the One Ring is an annoying way that maybe we can lose this game. So I think we'll have one Null Rod in here. The One Ring is quite awkward for our strategy in general. But hopefully our opponent doesn't ever get to that, because we're just like going to be hymning them and poxing them and just doing all the fun stuff that you all know and love. Okay, this hand is not great against the old Blood Moon. What does this hand do? This is a turn 2 Sheoldred's Edict, turn 3 POX / Liliana. That is not good enough. I think we can do something better. We have a basic Swamp. I don't hate that. We don't have a second Black Source to cast one of our Smallpoxes, but our deck is absolutely rammed full of them. So I'm going to keep this one, and we'll get rid of the card that we just can't cast right now. Obviously, we can't cast these either, but these are easier to cast because any land gets us these, whereas if we draw a Swamp and we've got a Life From The Loam in hand, that goes poorly for us. Okay, a Chrome Mox is something that's pretty good around what we're trying to do with our mana denial here. 2 Chrome Moxes. Okay, so these are permanents we don't get to interact with unless we can Null Rod. Maybe we want more Null Rods. A Shadow Skull, we're going to see a turn 1 Mages of the Moon or something. No, we're going to see a turn 1 Pyrogoy, 4 mana. Okay, it's turn 1 One Ring. Okay, we need to draw ourselves a Null Rod. Pretty sharpish here. I think our opponent is in a very good spot here. We've drawn an Urborg. Do we need the Urborg right now? I don't think so. I think we have to work towards casting these Smallpoxes. I don't think we can waste time here. Our opponent's going to have lots of resources from this One Ring. We need to try and strip away our opponent's things that get into play that can kill us. Not their lands, because they're going to have lands. But we just need to sort of tax our opponent's life total here, because the One Ring is going to be part of our win condition. That is a very good card here. A Mishra's Factory. Am I just saving up for a POX? Or am I just going to Smallpox, take this out, take one of our opponent's cards, just keep restricting our opponent's ability to play this game? And hopefully the One Ring is something they don't get to leverage enough. I think we get rid of the Factory. And I get rid of the Swamp. This way we have black whilst also being able to play things like Factory and Wasteland. We're already going to struggle against the Blood Moon if they have it. So we're just going to lean into that a little bit. Okay, so we have their next creature answered. And then it gets a little bit trickier after that point. We'd love to draw the Null Rod. I think if we can draw the Null Rod next turn, then we can probably win the game. Okay, they got Blood Sun rather than Blood Moon. That's interesting. Are they running the Lotus Field, I think it's called? 3 red for a Blood Moon. Okay, that is pretty devastating. Especially since we got rid of our Swamp. A Bayou, that's not really the one, is it? I'll still play it out. So we need our opponent to not kill us before the One Ring kills them. That seems very unlikely. So by playing the green sources in our deck, we do make ourselves weaker to Blood Moon effects. The One Ring. Alright, I think we're done here. I think our opponents should be able to win this game. I'm not going to insult their intelligence. Okay, I would like the Thoughtseizes back on the play. And then we'll take out the Sheoldred's Edicts. And I think I do want some more Null Rods here. The question is, what do we lose for Null Rod? Maybe it's 1 POX. I know, I like the POX too, but I think it probably is a POX. And maybe we're looking at trimming a couple of hymns. It's just the Null Rod is so good against our opponent's things that are good against us. So all their fast mana in there, like Moxen and stuff. Okay, I will keep this. Feels like we need something else to really make this hand shine, but I can play with this for now. I'm going to Thoughtseize our opponent. I'm just deciding if I want to get a second swamp, so we have 2 swamps underneath any sort of Blood Moon action. I think that is what I want to do here. It does make us a bit worse if we draw one of our Life From The Loams, but it protects us against the Blood Moon effects. Right, so they kept 7. Let's see if we can punch a hole. So we have got Broadside Bombardiers that they can probably play this turn if they want to. Blood Sun, Fury, Pyrogoyf. So if they play City of Traitors and Simian Spirit Guide here to play out a Broadside Bombardiers, we can just take the 2 and move on with our life, and that is fine. Do I care about this Pyrogoyf? I don't think so. Do I care about the Blood Sun? I would like to be able to wasteland my opponent a bunch. I don't think they're going to play Blood Sun out straight away. Kind of a tricky decision here. I think it's either the Pyrogoyf or the Blood Sun with the aim of our opponent spends a bunch of resources to make these Bombardiers. We take 2, then we kill it. Alright, I'm going to take the Blood Sun. It just shuts down our Wasteland, which is going to be one of our main tools to keep our opponent in the dirt. So we want to be able to Wasteland them. Let's see if they go for the City of Traitors Broadside Bombardiers line. If they've drawn another Simian Spirit Guide, they can get us. If they just play out like a non-basic land, like a Shatter Skull or whatever, then we can Wasteland it. Okay, so here is the Simian Spirit Guide. We're going to see the Broadside. Or did they draw something better? It's the Broadside. Alright, so this is the exact plan we wanted our opponent to do. I think we're getting rid of... Ooh, I like the Bloodghast here. We have to be a little bit careful because we know they have a Fey Macabre. So I'm going to play out this Swamp. I'm going to cast a Smallpox. I think I'm going to discard the Dark Ritual here. I don't want this Bloodghast getting hit by the Fey Macabre. They might discard the Fey Macabre now. And they got rid of a Pyrogoyf, sure. So us keeping the Bloodghast means that we actually get to have our threat. And our opponent is down to no resources. This is the gaming that you all came here to see. No permanents in play. No lands in hand. Shadow Skull smashing. A Shadow Skull, the Hammer Pass. So we have 2 choices here. We can wasteland this straight away, or we can work toward. We can play the Bloodghast and get some pressure. I think I just want to wasteland our opponent. That's what we came here to do. And then next turn we can play the Bloodghast. We can work towards the Liliana. We nearly have Threshold for our Cabal Pit, which might be relevant. It can kill things like Bombardiers, or like a mate. Well, I can't kill a mate to the moon, can it? Alright, they have a Chrome Mox. This is actively the sort of thing they want. Are they going to put a Fury underneath it? They are. But they have no land to go with it, so that's good news for us. Wasteland, I'll certainly be using you later. Let's get this Bloodghast in. So next turn we can play the Liliana and just start wrecking our opponent's hand. Or continue to wreck our opponent's hand. We've done a reasonable amount of hand wrecking so far with the Thoughtseize plus the Smallpox. Oh, they found a land, but they're not doing anything with it. 2 cards in their hand. I wouldn't mind something that we don't care discarding here. A Wasteland. I don't really want to discard a Wasteland, do I? Okay, I think we're just going to call it for a turn on the Liliana and just keep our opponent unable to play spells. And the slow march to victory continues. Shadow Skull. Okay. 2 cards in our opponent's hand. Are we going to draw something we can play? Would be nice. A Dark Ritual. Okay, this is excellent for us. This means we get to go Dark Ritual into Liliana. Then we get to wasteland our opponent. Then we get to strip one of their cards. We've got an Edict saved up for later. Are they going to get rid of this Fey Macabre yet? They are. Okay, good. Then we bash for 2. And then we've got removal stored up, and then we're just going to be shredding our opponent's cards. So they can't keep cards in hand, so they have to deploy them. But then if they deploy them, then they lose whatever the last card in their hand is. And they expose themselves to things like Wasteland. I will play out our land. I will take our opponent's final card. City of Traitors. So they can't do lots of stuff on 2 mana. It's usually 3 mana where their deck really pops off. We've already used 3 Wastelands. We don't have a green source. Alright, this is actually a pretty good find for our opponent here. Alright, I'll play out our land here. I will attack with the Bloodghast. I will plus the Liliana. So we have Broadside Bombardiers covered with our Cabal Pit. We've got 9 cards in our graveyard. Honestly, we could probably run some more Cabal Pits. The 1 damage is relevant, but I can live with that. We've also made it so they can tap their Ancient Tomb without taking damage, but if they want to cast something big. Okay. This shuts off our Wastelands. That's pretty good for our opponent. Shuts off our Cabal Pit as well. A Smallpox. I don't think it's worth us Smallpoxing here for the 1 damage, because we lose our Bloodghast then. I'm just going to take that card from our opponent's hand. It was another fairy. Sure. We can ultimate the Liliana if they get some stuff into play that we don't want to deal with. Or that we can't deal with. They don't have the mana for a Fury, which is one of the things that could, like, do some real damage to us here. I'll play his land out. I will attack. We can go and get a Surveil land next turn. This also opens up green mana, so we can draw Life From The Loam. That's the thing we're interested in doing. I'm just going to plus the Liliana here to keep the bottomless pit going. Alright, we got the match there. That was some wonderful POX action, especially game 1. I like it when the first round of a video we get to do our thing. Always makes me happy, and I hope you love it too. Alright, let's go to round 2. A turn 1 Liliana isn't a bad place to be. I will keep this. Okay, I think I'm going to Wasteland this before we do anything else. Let's just not mess around. I suspect this means our opponent has an Ancient Tomb in their hand. A Chrome Mox. Another card that is awkward for us sometimes, but we do have ourselves some Null Rods in the sideboard. What is this? A Day's Undoing. Ugh, not a massive fan of that one. Okay, they didn't have a follow-up here. So no additional land. I would like to cast this Dark Ritual into Liliana. Is this good enough? Is this worth a Force of Will to you? I don't want them to have something like a Spell Pierce. That would be really annoying. Oh wow, we're just in. Right, each player can discard a card. I'm going to discard the redundant Liliana, I think. Winds of Change. Soporific Springs, you say? It would be a shame if someone were to blow up your thing, wouldn't it? So what land are we playing here? I think we play the Cabal Pit. And then we Smallpox. I discard the Nether Spirit. And then I think I discard the Dark Ritual with the Liliana. If this resolves. We'll see if it resolves or not. Oh, Nether Spirit. Getting some action on the channel. Love to see it. I will probably lose the Bayou here. The Cabal Pit is useful. We already have another green source. I got rid of a Force of Will. Let's get rid of Dark Ritual. So we have a threat coming back next turn. I'll pop our Graveyard out up here. Now this is gaming. This is Magic the Gathering as intended right now. Chrome Mox, Pitching Day's Undoing, Lion's Eye Diamond. Okay. So they're out of stuff. So we have our threats here. I will plus this. I will discard the Bloodghast. I will play this Underground Mortuary. I don't want a Nurturing Peatland, not really. We get our Bloodghast back. And then next turn we can ultimate the Liliana if we want to. It feels like our opponent is on like an Echo of the Eons line here. Soporific Springs, okay. Oh, Life From The Loam is a nice find, isn't it? I will attack our opponent. I will Life From The Loam back, Wasteland by Nurturing Peatland. I will Wasteland our opponent. I will plus this, and I'll discard the Bayou. So we can put Chrome Moxes versus Lion's Eye Diamond, if we want to. I will dredge his Life From The Loam. We can find more Bloodghasts. We did not find more Bloodghasts. Let's go to attacks. Let's Life From The Loam, get back these 3 lands. Let's plus this to take the card out of our opponent's hand. I will discard, I think it's just the Bayou here. And I will deploy this Nurturing Peatland. So we have a redraw if we want it later on. Saprazan Scary, that's something that we can interact with in a second. We'd like to find some more Bloodghast, please. Not another Bloodghast. Right, let's get back. Oh, we haven't done our Wasteland yet, have we? Let's Wasteland our opponent first. Let's separate our opponent's permanents. We're going to go for Moxes versus LED. I kept the LED. I think that's actually the correct choice for our opponent as well. Let's get back Wasteland, Underground Mortuary, and Bayou. There's no way we can do this without taking damage, so... Crash for 4. Our opponent did nothing. We'll dredge his Life From The Loam. No Bloodghasts. Alright, let's attack. And I think we draw a card here. Dredge his Life From The Loam. We should have done this first, actually, just in case we hit the Bloodghast. I'll play out this Wasteland. I'll get back some other lands. I will discard his Life From The Loam. Alright, opponent. You got to try and kill me this turn. Okay, we got the game by putting our opponent into the dirt. I would like 3 Null Rods. I think there's definitely some argument for these Leyline of the Voids, for sure. I think Thoughtseize is going to be quite a useful card to have access to here. POX is kind of expensive here. I think we can at least trim 1, probably looking at trimming more though. So get rid of this. How do I feel about Dark Ritual here? I think we do need the Ritual. We can maybe ease off the Life From The Loam slightly. That gets us the 3 Null Rods. If we want these ley lines, we're going to have to find somewhere else to stick them. The ley line shuts off our opponent's Echo of Eons plan, but so does the Null Rod. For the most part, I guess. We can make them discard it and then they get to carry on doing their thing. Is this a game where we need him to Tourach? I think it probably is. I don't know if we can actually afford to put in these ley lines. We kind of need the... Is the slow burn of the Liliana good? I think it is. I think we're just going to go in with 3 Null Rods. Let's try not to overboard. It's often a mistake you can make with a lot of decks, especially something that looks like POX. Okay, so this is Surveil Land into Smallpox, into Liliana. I think this is acceptable, but not exciting. Soporific Springs, untapped. So we're probably looking at like Consign to Memory or some kind of Spell Pierce type effect that they're holding up. That is an Ancient Tomb. So our opponent is threatening a Hull Breacher here. They're threatening Hull Breacher into Echo of Eons. There is the Hull Breacher. Don't like this for us very much. So our opponent just gets a bunch of treasure. I don't really want to play this game anymore. I'm going to concede that one. Okay. Do I want these... Maybe I do want these ley lines. That gives us less on the Liliana train. Do I like Liliana more than him? I don't think so. Alright, let's have the ley lines in then. Is this good? I'd rather have some hand disruption. I think let's try and get some hand disruption going. Okay, I'll keep this. What are we getting rid of? I want to cast a POX here and take a whole chunk of our opponent's hand. That probably means we're getting rid of Smallpox or the Factory. How do you feel about this one, opponent? Oh wow, we just did, aren't we? We only discard 1 card. Our opponent discards substantially more than 1 card. It's rounded up, so it should be 3 cards, I think. Get Mind Twisted. Then we have a win condition. We'll sacrifice our only land. Okay, so they did get rid of an Echo of Eons. So that could come back to bite us, because we don't have a ley line to stop that. Let's find out. Saprazan's Scary. Tormod's Crypt. Okay, so no more Bloodghast for us. I understand. However, we have a fetch land. Would you like to interact with this? Okay, we're just in with our Bloodghast. Because if they try and crack the Tormod's Crypt, we can then crack this and put another landfall trigger on top of it. We can go and get ourselves a Surveil land here. This is mainly to stop Life From The Loam, I suspect. Okay, so we're going to see a new grip here. Do they have the Hull Breacher as well? Of course. Why wouldn't they have the Hull Breacher? Why wouldn't they? We'll play this one out, but I think this game is over. Our opponent's deck is very well geared to beating ours because it's one of those decks where it turns nothing into a full grip of 7, and that's kind of all the deck wants to do, which is the exact antithesis of what we're trying to do to our opponent. Although this deck is very poor at winning the game. It takes forever. Like, that last game, we didn't necessarily need to concede, but it's just not particularly fun to just sit there and lose to it, and I am trying to make entertainment at the end of the day. But we'll play this one out for a little bit because it is kind of the end game, really. Okay. Let's attack them with our Bloodghast here. So other Bloodghasts we find will have haste. So there is a possibility that we can maybe attack our opponent for 4 next turn. Sink into stupor, a lotus petal. Another Lion's Eye Diamond. Another Lion's Eye Diamond. Another Ancient Tomb. I understand, opponent, you have mana. But if they're just attacking with a 3-2, like, our deck doesn't really mind being Mind Twisted that much. It's more that our opponent gets to reload. We're gonna... Red mana. What is this? Oh, wow. Just a Simian Spirit Guide. Let's go and get a Surveil land here. This does impact the clock a little bit. I don't really want this. This is 3 shots at hitting Bloodghast. But we can't get it back because of the Tormod's Crypt, so I think we have to say no to that. A Wasteland. Right, I'm going to attack our opponent. Our plan here is entirely to hit the Bloodghast. Okay, so we're going to trade off here. I'm going to play this Wasteland and get our Bloodghast back. They're going to pop this Crypt. It forces us to crack the Catacombs. There is no point doing anything with this Wasteland either. Can I have my Bloodghast back, please? Crypt targeting us in response. So they're going to sweep up the Life From The Loam, but that's okay. Let's get this Underground Mortuary going. We don't need a Wasteland that can go into the graveyard. Bloodghast comes back. And the Crypt ability will strip away our Life From The Loam and some stuff there. But again, this is not what that game is about. 3 mana, just another Hull Breacher. No, they're just going to bounce our Bloodghast. We can cast a Bloodghast. But if they're going to wheel us and get rid of it, then sure, that's annoying. This has haste. But it does mean it's going to be harder for us to have multiple Bloodghasts coming in. And there's a Saga, an actual win condition. Like, yes, Hull Breach can beat down, but... Alright. A day's undoing. We are undone. A Null Rod. A little bit late there, Null Rod. Would have liked to have seen you earlier. Now, the issue they have, or that we have, is that they can just make a gargantuan Urza Saga construct. And then pummel us with it. Which is not great. They will have to take 2 damage, but I don't think that matters. We don't really have any threat going on. Our deck is not flush with threats. And it's going to be harder to get threats when they've got a Force of Will. Right, so they got a Saga. So they attack us for 3, then they make... Then the Hull Breacher and the Saga are both lethal here. What are we looking for to win this game? I don't have a 7-point burn spell randomly in my deck. I think we are just dead here. I'll take one more draw just in case I've forgotten something. But I'm pretty sure we got nothing. Yeah. Alright, that is a horrible matchup. Like I said, our opponent's deck is... If you were to design a deck that is really good against POX, it would look a lot like this, where it can just... Has cards it wants to discard, and then also have a way of just reloading up to 7 whenever it wants, and then playing multiple things out in one turn, like mana sources. So they can play to the board in ways that gets around POX and Smallpox. Yeah, this is just going to be a really difficult matchup, unless we can put our opponent properly in the dirt like we did in Game 1 early doors. Alright, 2 rounds down, 1-1, let's go to round 3. For free, fast and secure worldwide shipping on high-end singles, classic products and full sets, check out 3for1 Trading. Whether it's the legacy or pre-modern that I play on this channel, or even vintage and old school, they've got you covered. Find them through the link in the description of this video and use my code COWFREE for free worldwide shipping on your first order over $500 or euros. Alright, our hand for round number 3 is a little bit squiffy over here. So I'm going to mulligan this one, I think. I will keep this hand. I think we're binning off the Nurturing Peatland here. Our opponent is a well-known painter player who's very good at playing painter as well. Do I want to just start Lilianaing and then we can worry about doing some poxing stuff in a bit? If I had something that I really wanted to put into the graveyard right now, like a Bloodghast or whatever, then I could do that. But I think we're just going to go Swamp, Dark Ritual, Liliana, and then probably plus. What are we getting rid of is the question. Smallpox is a card we can cast. I think it's we get rid of the Pox and just keep the card we can cast. And just grind our opponent into the dirt as our deck is designed to do. I don't know what flavour of painter our opponent is on. I've seen them play painter of every single colour imaginable. They have a channel as well. Check out Lightwalker on YouTube and you can see some great painter content. A Fury, pitching Goblin Engineer. So this is going to gobble up my Liliana. Okay, they haven't played a land drop yet. Just an Urza Saga. Into a Mishra's research desk. Would like to find a Wasteland here, I think. Not a Wasteland, but I won't pass up taking my opponent's remaining 2 cards. Alright, we're back to the dirt. Let's roll around in it some more. Our opponent's relatively good at doing stuff on lower resources. We've got lots of little ways of grinding back into the game. A Ghost Quarter. I could Ghost Quarter my opponent's Urza Saga to stop them tutoring for a piece of mana. This would give them a piece of mana though. They have no cards in hand. I think I'm just going to deploy this Ghost Quarter and pass. I'm going to try and grab a creature with this Smallpox. So Mishra's research desk. They can cast one of them, right? Choose one of them until the next turn you play it. They chose Mountain. That's not really a shocker there, is it? They can also unearth this to get another card. This is going to be a very good matchup for the old Null Rod. I'll tell you that much. Alright, this is a redraw for them, most likely. But we'll see. They're going to play a Fable. That's pretty good, isn't it? Okay. Another Swamp here. So we can take out one of their lands. I think we need to take out the guy that makes them treasures here. So I'm going to cast a Smallpox. I'm going to get rid of one of my swamps so that I can still Ghost Quarter away and Urza Saga. Because that's the sort of thing that could get them back into this game. We'll need to deal with this Fable the Mirror Breaker at some point. The fact we don't have any way of actually pressuring our opponent is costing us a little bit here. Alright, so there is an Urza Saga. We can erase that with our Ghost Quarter to stop them doing anything. Does give them a permanent mana source, which is something that we don't really want them to have. We can Smallpox. That would take out just one land. We would have to Ghost Quarter ourselves. We'd lose one of our lands as well. So we'd end up quite far down on that exchange. Alright, I don't like it. I think we're just hitting this as a Saga. They're probably going to cycle this Soul-Guide Lantern. No. They're wary of us having things like Bloodghast, I think. Okay, now they are cycling the Lantern. Makes sense. Lots of mana over there. So our plan isn't really working. Understood. We can Pox and take away one of their creatures. But our opponent is just one card away from winning the game now. Am I just going to Pox and take out one of these guys? Is that even worth our time? Or do I just want... I think I'm just going to get a Surveil land here. If our opponent draws it and wins next turn, then fair enough. Yep, okay. They got me. Okay. That did not go very well for us. But we've got 3 Null Rods that would very much like to be a part of this game. The Leyline in the Void can shut off their Mishra's research desk. It can shut off their Goblin Engineer and their Goblin Welder as well. But I think I would rather have a couple of Toxic Deluge and just be able to sweep up a bunch of things that make it into play. How do I feel about the Liliana? It didn't feel great. I think we'll swap those out for these. And then, what are we looking to trim? Like, it should probably be a POX. We should probably only be running 3 of these. We'll try that. We could board in more removal and stuff. But I quite like it how we've got it set up here. Okay. I very much like having access to the Null Rod here, as you probably would have guessed. I will keep this. And I think we just play a Swamp. And then next turn we Dark Ritual, Bloodghast plus Null Rod with this Wasteland. Mishra's Research Desk. And a Soul-Guide Lantern, sure. I do like access to the Bayou here. That'll certainly come in handy shortly. So this is 3 black mana. Cast a Bloodghast. Cast this Null Rod. And I think things are looking up for us. We shut down 2 of our opponent's cards that are in play right now. They probably have ways of answering this. Some of those ways might involve Painted Servant and Red Blast. Okay, they're playing an Urza Saga out into our known Wasteland here. Disruptor Flute on the Wasteland is pretty good here. Yep. That's a nice one. Time to draw Ghost Quarter? No, just another Null Rod. Understood. So this just can't be activated. It's like fully pith and needled. It costs 3 more if you play it. But to actually activate it is just not a thing we get to do. I think our opponent's not going to have mass land destruction, mass artifact destruction in their artifact deck, like meltdowns and things. So we're just going to insulate ourselves with additional Null Rod. They're going to get a couple of Urza Sagas tokens, and we're probably going to have to do a big Toxic Deluge. Painted Servant, 3 cards in our opponent's hand. They've named blue, so their Red Blaster on. Understood. We do need our Toxic Deluge to hit both things here. I'm perfectly happy just to fire off a Hymn to Tourach though. We got the Grindstone. If we attack here, it doesn't go amazingly for us. So I guess we're just holding. Not really where the Bloodghast wants to be. They've got a 1-3. How are we ever supposed to beat a 1-3? Okay, so they're going to pay 2 life. Then now our Bloodghast have haste. So they're going to get themselves another construct here. So they're going to beat us down for a lot this turn, but then we're going to Toxic Deluge, sweep away everything. If we play a land, then our Bloodghast comes back. What is this Pith and Needle going to name? Liliana, I suspect, since they've already got the Wasteland covered. Liliana, okay. And another Urza Saga. Yikes. That isn't the best for us. We can't block, we take 8 here. And then we have to pay 7 life to strip the things they have in play right now. I don't think we get to wait another turn either. We can pay 6 life if they block with this. If they block on here first. Because we kill this and then this kills the other one. So let's see if they want to block here. So we pay we pay 5 life. This will die, this will die. This will be 2 smaller, this will then die. So we only have to pay 5 life this turn. Okay, so we save ourselves a little bit. We're looking for a land, so we can go Bloodghast, get the Bloodghast from the bin, attack for 4. And just keep that pressure up, hopefully. Thoughtseize isn't the one, is it? Am I attacking here? This forces them to make an Urza Saga construct, but they're going to do that anyway. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then it's 6 on the crackback the following turn. Yeah, this doesn't look good for us. Again, our opponent is a deck that has lots of permanents that we don't really interact with, all these artifacts. Now, yes, we have this Null Rod stuff going on, but if we can't deal with the construct, I guess they can make a 7/7 here and just kill us, right? If we'd have had a land last turn, we could have forced through 2 more damage, but that's still not going to be enough here. So this is 7. They don't need to cast anything off of this Ancient Tomb. They can just attack with this and we die. Oh, Bloodghast, you are not for blocking, are you? Right, a very quick defeat there. Slaughtered. Alright, let's go to round 4. I will keep this. So we can Dark Ritual. Oh, our opponent's doing the Dark Ritual thing. They normally play Esper Control. Or they have been lately. I think a couple of challenge top 8s recently. Oh wow, we're just getting entombed on turn 1, aren't we? Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. Is this going to be Grizzlebrand? Alright, Traxxer, what are you going to show us? It's a lot of stuff, isn't it? Bayou, Reanimate, Entomb, Archon of Cruelty. So next turn they can go and get whatever they want back here. So we need... Smallpox doesn't hurt. That stops them from getting us next turn. Cast Dark Ritual. We can cast this other Dark Ritual. Then what are we discarding? I think we're just casting the Smallpox here. So we can discard the Bloodghast. And then they don't get to reanimate on us this turn. Our Bloodghast now have haste, which makes the actual card reanimate become increasingly difficult. So we'll probably just Wasteland, bring back our Bloodghast, take out their Bayou. We can still win this one. I suppose they have this Archon of Cruelty they discarded last turn, didn't they? Oh yes. I guess it has to be the Dark Ritual. Forgot about this. Because this is what they discarded to our Smallpox, so we kind of helped them out on that front. How do we get out of this one? We need to cast the Smallpox, basically, to beat this. So our best bet for casting the Smallpox is to just play out the Bayou, discard the Life From The Loam. Attacking here doesn't feel the best. At least we have Leylines. Goodbye, Life From The Loam. I guess this doesn't really matter because we can't cast a Smallpox before this kills us, right? Because we take 3 next turn. We don't have a Liliana to draw because we don't have... Alright, let's just go to game 2 and get our Leylines in. Our opponent playing the Bayous tells us they're almost certainly running the Witherbloom Apprentice combo in their deck. So we probably want some Sheoldred's Edict in order to help that particular thing from ruining our day. I guess POX becomes a little bit less useful. The Liliana... So our deck is going to struggle to operate unless there is a Leyline in the field. And our opponent is probably aware of that fact as well. So maybe we have to trim another POX here. Don't want to trim any of these sorts of things. Like the Cabal Pit can actually answer their little friend. How much do I like the hymns? They're fine. Maybe the Liliana is a touch slow for what we're trying to do in this matchup. It is removal, but we need instant speed removal because they're just going to sandbag it and we can take out a Loam. So I'm expecting our opponent to lean very heavily into Witherbloom Apprentice combo, but we have to respect the fact that they can also just do the graveyard thing. This hand is bad. This hand is acceptable. No Leyline is definitely a problem. But if we're expecting our opponent to be playing a Witherbloom Apprentice combo, like our opponent is a pretty good Magic Gathering player, so I'm not expecting them to just ignore what we're doing here. They're going to be tuned into the fact that we can... do I get rid of this? I think I get rid of the factory, actually. Yeah, so our opponent's going to be tuned into the fact that we need to not get blown out. Sorry, we need to not get blown out by our discard stuff. We need to be able to actually discard our opponent, which means Leyline. Which means they're going to have brought in the Witherbloom Apprentice. So we're going one layer above that and keeping a hand that should be good into the Witherbloom Apprentice plan. Chain of Smog, Animate Dead, Entomb, Spores of the Vault, Lotus Petal. They have 1 mana source. We can take that 1 mana source and leave them with nothing. Or we can take the Dark Ritual, which they're probably... So if they Dark Ritual, they can Entomb Reanimate. I don't really want that to happen to us. The Chain of Smog is because they have the Witherbloom Apprentice. So... It's kind of an awkward one. I think it's correct to take the Dark Ritual here. Because hopefully we can, if they do find a land, we can strand stuff in their hand by taking out that land. They will play out the Lotus Petal because it's better in play where we can't interact with it as easily. But they have no follow-up here. I don't really want to Smallpox unless I'm hitting like a creature or a land from our opponent's side. We would be losing a lot more than our opponent if we cast that Smallpox. It would be 2 mana, our opponent discards 1 card, we lose a bunch of things. Alright, Sheoldred's Edict is nice to have. Play that out. That is also protection against some of the reanimated creatures. I still don't think we're ready for Smallpoxing. We can think about it soon, but we don't want to just enable our opponent to be able to animate dead a big monster in their hand. If we can get some Life From The Loam stuff going, then maybe we can change it. Now, obviously, the Smallpox does put something in our graveyard from Life From The Loam, but it goes shields down on something like a Sheoldred's Edict, and then maybe gives our opponent the opportunity to just Entomb, Reanimate, and win, or do something spooky like that. Right, there is a Witherbloom Apprentice. There is a Wasteland. And I'm more interested in Life From The Loam here. I kind of want to draw a Leyline, so I'm not going to play out this Loam. We have the removal spell if they reanimate this with a Witherbloom Apprentice. A very weird game. A Cabal Pit. That does incentivize me to try and Loam a little bit here. But again, I think we just want to have access to a Leyline. If we can draw the Leyline, then we can shut off half of their deck. Another Witherbloom. The Wasteland. Alright, a Spoils of the Vault. This could kill them. I think I'm about 50-50 on dying to my Spoils of the Vault in terms of the amount of times I've cast it. It's either... What card do they name? Out of curiosity. What are they looking for in that situation? Polluted Delta. And let's just see what they've exiled. Anything interesting here? They haven't seen our Leyline, which is good news. Okay, I like how we've sideboarded here. It's not perfect, but I'll take it. I think it's about as good as we're going to get here. There is an argument for maybe the Poxes just becoming Lilianas. It's just a bit of removal of what our opponent's doing. I think I don't mind that. We could play things like Null Rod, but they probably only have 4 artifacts at tap, which is going to be the 4 Lotus Pearls. Leyline of the Void. That is a card I would like to have in my opening hand. The game 3 against this transformative reanimated deck is always really interesting. You don't know if your opponent's going to go into something like a full-on Duke or a half Duke or whatever. What are they going to name here? Thoughtseize? Is that Ritual? Smallpox? They named Thoughtseize. Oof, that's not a bad hit there. Yikes. Okay. Alright, let's duck Ritual into Smallpox. I'll discard this, sack my land, and we'll move on with life. What do we get from our opponent there? An Unmask. So now we've just got this Mishra's Factory. We play that, we get our Bloodghast back. Maybe we find a land and start turning this sideways as well. We did find a land. We do get to start turning this sideways. Excellent. So we can crash for 4 next turn. If we find another land, we can crash for 5 the turn after because we can tap one of these to pump the other one. Opponent's got some mana there. Are we going to see the Witherbloom? We are. We might be dead next turn. Okay. Is this better? This allows us to cast. I'm just trying to work out if we want this Mishra's Factory. Because if this dies, then this Mishra's Factory can attack next turn. I think we're going to do this. So if you right click, it tells you if it's newly controlled or not. So this one is not newly controlled. So I'd like it to become a creature. Let me attack. I'm happy to trade here. Are we dead? So they chain of smog, target themselves, and just copy it as many times as they like and drain us out. There it is. So if you're unfamiliar with this combo, they target themselves and then chain of smog says whoever was targeted by it gets to copy it if they want to and choose new targets, but they can just fire it themselves. Witherbloom Apprentice drains life for 1 every time you cast or copy a spell. Alright, 4 rounds in and we are 1 and 3. A bit of a rough league. Now, obviously 2 of these are 1-2s. We definitely played against some decks that are pretty horrible for us to play against. So the painted deck has got a bunch of permanents that is really difficult for us to interact with. Obviously we have the Null Rod, but it's kind of all or nothing on the Null Rod, and it didn't work because we didn't get to blow up enough of their Urza Sagas as we were doing it. And then obviously the whole day deck is just impossible for us. Alright, final round, see if we can put a classic 2-3 POX finish on the board. I don't like this hand, we don't have enough mana to really operate here. This is a very slow hand for modern day Legacy, I'll tell you that much. Alright, we just have to hope that it works, I think is the plan here. So we have land into Loam on turn 2, picking up 2 lands. Maybe that's going to be okay. A Wasteland. So we have the Wasteland Loam lock. That's not too shabby. But we could be looking at Omnitel, which is going to do some pretty gross things to us, I would imagine. Ancient Tomb. Lotus Petal. This looks like an Omnitel deck. Okay, stock up. So you're saying there's a chance still. Liliana is not a permanent that gets put into play off of a show and tell. It specifies land, creature, enchantment artifact, I think. Let's go and get our Surveil land. We don't need a Liliana. Okay, so we could Life From The Loam here. Or we could Wasteland. If our opponent has it, the chance of them being able to send it next turn, even if we Wasteland, is very high. So I think we go get a Bayou here. I don't think our opponent's going to mess with our mana. And just draw up a couple of lands here. And then we try and POX and just take out lots of our opponent's stuff. Because they are a critical mass deck, and if we can hit enough of that mass, then we'll be okay. But if they get an Omniscience in play, then it doesn't matter how many lands they have. A stock up. This is what we needed. We need another turn to get through. Now our opponent might still be able to just play an Ancient Tomb and Show and Tell now. This Omnitel deck is pretty good. Alright. We've got a turn. Will our spell resolve? That is a different question. We will not dredge that this turn. An Urborg. I don't think that's the one that matters right now. Alright, actual, factual, POX. This will take a bunch of our opponent's permanents. Well, we'll take one of their lands, we'll take a bunch of their hand. I don't believe this is going to resolve. Our opponent's done 2 stock-ups. So they've got some pretty good selection of what's in their hand right now. Brainstorm. Maybe they don't have it. This could be good news for us. So they got 7 cards, which means they lose 3 cards to the POX if it resolves. A Spell Pierce, sure. That's somewhat sad. But we can Wasteland next turn. But I don't believe that's going to matter at this point because they're going to have enough basics to just ignore Wasteland. 4 mana. The 1 ring. Yeah, that's pretty scary too. Yikes. I think we can afford to do that. Okay, Liliana, it's your time to maybe do something. So this is each player, so they will still lose a card. Now, making our opponent discard a card every turn versus the 1 ring feels like we're trying to get water out of the boat when we just have holes in our boat. Yes, I would like my Bloodghast back. And this gives us a Veil land, which maybe finds us something that we can use. I don't feel great about this. They've done a lot of sculpting. I think they must have everything. They're just looking for the show and tell because they do have to find one of their 4 off to actually do their thing. Although they can get up to enough mana to cast an Omniscience. If they've got the 1 ring burning, they're going to be putting 1 or 2 mana into play every turn. And if we don't clock them quick enough, then they'll certainly be able to have the mana in play to do just that. Alright, Scalding Tarn, another island, a Lotus Petal, another Lotus Petal, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Alright, they're going to show and tell. I'll have a Bloodghast, I guess. There's an Omniscience. You got an Emrakul? A Cunning Witch. That gets them an Emrakul via shared summons. Okay. Yeah, don't feel great about this. So what do I like here? There are situations where Mindbreak Trap can do stuff. And the Null Rod can stop the 1 ring. I think we might just be going in with the main deck as it is though. Or I guess the Wasteland package isn't very useful here actually. So maybe we'll trim 2 Loams and a Wasteland and get some Null Rods in. Now we can definitely Wasteland away their Ancient Tomb. But we can't Wasteland away their basics. This isn't any good. This is, I guess, what we're keeping. Probably put back a Verdant Catacombs. So we have a Surveil land on turn 1. And we can follow up with a Null Rod to stop the 1 ring. Or we can play a Bloodghast to start pressuring our opponent's life total. I don't think either of these is going to be good enough. Ooh, him to Tourach, yes please. Now that is what I'm talking about. Our opponent does have access to like a Spell Pierce here. They've already shown us they're playing it, but if we don't fire this and they just have the combo, then we die. So we do have to fire this into a Spell Pierce. There it is, as expected. Yeah, our deck does not feel like it's going to be able to do what it needs to today. A Ponder, that's at least not them putting a giant monster or Omniscience into play. There's still time for the Ancient Tomb plus the Lotus Petal. I'm going to play the Wasteland. I'm going to play this Null Rod just to try and shut off the 1 ring. And then I'm going to take out this Ancient Tomb. This does mean that we're not casting the Liliana unless we draw a land. But we can't allow our opponent to untap with the mana to just show and tell. If that's something we can actually actively stop them having, I will take it. So you shut off the 1 ring. They don't have enough mana for show and tell yet. This is a game that we could win from this position. But our opponent has a lot of selection to get where they need to go. And we don't have a way of closing this game particularly quickly. It's a match where I'd love to have that 4th him to Tourach. Soporific Springs. That is a land that we can hit. Okay, I guess we go and get a Swamp just in case something weird happens. We're going to cast this Liliana just to start eating away at our opponent's life total. Sorry, their hand. Each player discards a card. I will discard this Nether Spirit. That will come back next turn. And then we can discard the Bloodghast, play a land, or just cast a Bloodghast. See what we draw. A show and, or just a stock up. Okay. So again, they're using one card to get two, but they're also digging deep for the specific cards they want. So us chipping them away for one card is unlikely to be enough. They've got enough land, so they're going to be able to just throw some stuff away. They ponder. Welcome back, Nether Spirit. A Smallpox. That is an interesting opportunity. We lose our Nether Spirit. The Nether Spirit doesn't come back until we get a land to get the Bloodghast out. Then the Nether Spirit comes back. But I think I'm okay doing this. Each player discards a card. Emrakul, shuffle your graveyard in. Sure. So we need a land to get our Bloodghast back before we can get the Nether Spirit back. So there is a little bit of anti-synergy in running these, but we have a creature that readily comes out of the graveyard. That's our only sort of thing to go with it. Okay, a Liliana. It's not really the one we want here. Discarded a Force of Will. So they didn't have it on 3 mana last turn. Like, if they could, they would definitely just put in an Omniscience, because then they can just ignore what's happening with their lands. Show and tell. We have nothing to put in. Do they have the follow-up for this? Or is this just get this in play for now? Alright, so they're going to start casting spells. This deck usually, once it starts going, it just keeps going, because at some point they'll hit into a stock-up, which will either get them what they need, or it will get enough cards to then dig again. Yes, I would like my Bloodghast back. I'd also like this Liliana, please. It's getting Force of Will. They don't have to pitch cast now because they have Omniscience. Yep. But we have 4 power in play, and it's going to be 6 when the Nether Spirit comes out. But again, like I said, they've got things like Impulse, Lauren Revealed, Ponder, Brainstorm, and usually one finds another cantrip, and then it finds another cantrip, and then eventually they find like a stock up, which finds them a cantrip and the thing they're looking for, or whatever. And it's only a matter of time before they find a Cunning Wish or an Emrakul. This deck is just so reliable. It's quite impressive. That's an Emrakul. That is the league, I think. We are very much donezo. Alright, we got absolutely annihilated this league. We got a 1-4. Sure, we got a game off of 2 of the rounds we lost. But that's not ideal. So let's talk about our deck and why that might be the case. So predominantly today, I found the problem was the whole Life From The Loam thing is just too slow in the current meta. The bans, like in the description of like the format when they're talking about the bans, they were like, oh yes, the gameplay experience of Legacy is so much condensed into like the first few turns right now, blah, blah, blah. And then they said they were banning Troll of Khazad-dûm rather than the Entomb, which is the thing that's condensing the games. But anyway, as you saw, most of the decks we were playing against, the crucial turns were like 2, like maybe turn 2. And sometimes we could slow our opponents down a little bit, and sometimes we could grind them out. But on average, over the course of 3 games, most of the time they're going to be able to break out of what we're doing. We're unfortunate to play against the blue deck that just completely ignores what we're doing for the most part. The painter deck's not bad at ignoring what we're doing. If we'd have had enough Wastelands to deal with there as a Sagas, we would have been alright, but it just takes one Saga and then all of a sudden we're sort of behind the 8 ball of these giant monsters coming to kill us. So how do I feel about this list overall? Not particularly impressed. Like the Dark Ritual wasn't really where I wanted to be, I don't think. Now, when we Dark Ritual for POX in our very first game, you know that made me very happy. But that's not a thing that was really happening as often as I would like. And it just seems like what we're doing was a little bit low power level wise. I would have rather had access to another hymn and maybe more ways of manipulating our opponent's hand and trying something like that. So we're going to go back to drawing board a little bit. Maybe the next build will be fully mono black without the loam. I like the loam to grind with, but I thought the format might slow down after the ban slightly. I wasn't expecting it to slow down much, but I think the Troll of Khazad-dûm ban is pretty much irrelevant. But I think the Sowing Mycospawn Spawn ban allows some of the sort of decks that grind a little bit more to have a bit of space to operate in. However, in my experience, that hasn't been the case. It's just been combo decks. It's just mostly combo decks. I think I've played 1 control deck in 25 rounds of Legacy since the banning, so I'm not really sure anything has changed when the majority of the stuff we're playing in combo decks. which is what POX struggles against unless you have like more hand disruption, you can pick them apart that way. So I think that's the plan next time. We're going to try a POX build with a little bit more hand disruption. Maybe we're going to be less POX looking, and maybe we can sort of delve into the wonderful world of playing, not necessarily playing the rack, but maybe we could play the rack. We could have like a one of and an Urza Saga package and really try and grind our opponents in a different fashion alongside the small POX, but maybe not being playing actual factual POX. I'm not sure. Let me know your thoughts, and please remember to like and subscribe too. All right, thank you so much for joining me today, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.